Well, so talk about getting distracted. I still haven't tacked that on, but I have cut out the holes that were needing repair, and I've got the plates ready to go in, so I'm going to do that next. Then my intention is to put the support on, put the bracket onto the support, and put the outrigger on, and then tack both the outriggers and the brackets in place. I'm not going to fully weld them because I've ordered a new bulkhead from DDS Metals, and my intention is to take the supports off the old bulkhead, bolt them onto the new one, offer them back up to the chassis, loosely bolt them in, and then I'll be able to see whether or not I've actually got the outriggers bang on in place and whether or not they need a little bit of alterations to get them to pick up the bulkhead. Once I'm happy with that, then I'll weld them all up. So the next job, weld them plates in, touch that little pinhole, fill that pinhole in with a weld, and finish that off, fit the brackets, tack them in, and then I'll start to dismember this front. What I have got is I've took the retaining bar that was in the back of the rear cross member that came, and I'm just going to tack that in the front so that it doesn't go anywhere when I start to chop what's left of this out. So I'll start a bit of time lapse and I'll get on. Right, okay, so I've welded them holes in. Where it's gone a little bit thin or I've had a bit more of a gap, it's actually blown into a hole up there and then up at the top here. So what I've done there is I've welded a box around the hole and then laid it up, making sure that I penetrate inside so that when I grind that flush I'm not taking the thickness out, so that'll be thicker on the inside, so it'll leave more material. And where there was a pinhole, I started to weld that and it just disintegrated. We just half expected it to. So I've done the same there. As you can see, that top line there, I welded a box around it, up the sides, and then just weaved across to fill it up. But if you're doing that, try and lay it on top of your last run. And don't be afraid to stop and let it cool right off. I mean, I've been doing this for donkey's years, so it's pretty easy for me, really, to be fair. But if you're a novice, if you get your gear running right, and once it gets hot, stop. Don't just keep pulling the trigger, because all you do is you're going to end up like a seagull shit on it, and it's still going to be full of holes, and you'll end up with a big bulbous lump on the front. When you grind it back, the hole will reappear. So take your time with it. Let it cool off and try and lay your pass on top of the other pass until you actually close it up, if that makes any sense. What else I've done is where I had welded this patch in the other week, and I put a seam in down here, which has gone there. When I finished that off, there was a few little pinholes of porosity in, so it must have picked up some dirt or debris. So what I've done is I've ground it out, and then I've just run a bit of bead up over it to seal it up, so when I linish that back off again, it'll be fine. And that's it really. So I'm going to give that a little bit of time to cool down, otherwise I'll burn the shit out of my polishing pad, and there's a little hole there. I'm just going to fill that up. Right, so that's that linished off. Hole filled in on the top, pretty much. There's a little pinhole still there, but I'll sort that out when I weld the frame up. So I'm not overly worried. Ground the infill weld back up. So now I'm going to clean up the outriggers and the brackets, ready to tack them all together and get them in place, and then I'll start on the front. So I'll jump on with another bit of time lapse and we'll see how far I get. Well, that's stacked up, so I'll leave that as is. The only other thing I want to do now is clean up the other outrigger, tack that in place, and then I will wait until I get the bulkhead as mentioned earlier and make sure they're in the right spot. I've only got little tacks on and they're accessible enough to me to get them and take it all off and start again if it's not in the right place. So I'll get that done next, and then I'll start somewhere with that. Okay, I'll put some more time lapse on as soon as I've got the other outrigger tacked up. There's no point showing another same thing. Well, cross member's off. Yeah, wasn't salvageable. And a fine piece of welding there, look. I mean, genuinely, if people are paying to have repairs done, you know, at least they should get a decent job. Like, I mean, you'll notice I've not overpatched anything. I've cut and then put an infill plate in and welded it in and then linished it back to make it look right. And I'll probably end up going over the top by, well, it's going to get a coat of zinc primer when it's done, and it's going to get Raptored on the outside. I've already bought the Raptor for it. The entire chassis is going to get a Raptor in. And then I've got Lanigard, which is going to get sprayed on the inside, which is like a modern version of wax oil, and it's, you know, highly regarded with a lot of garages and people who do restoration. So yeah, probably gone a bit too far, but you know, at least make as best of the repair as I possibly can. But that's just absolutely shocking. I wonder if it'll its MOT in 2018. I'm going to have a right bit of work to do on that. I've left part of that support on, and I'll just go around here and get a better look. Left part of that support on, mainly just because it gives me a datum to go to, and it's carrying this, which is a bolt carrier for the suspension steering arm. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that'll all get dressed up. The little bit of raggy cross member that's there will get cut off, and I'll tidy it all up. I'll be able to get the new cross member in then and tacked in, but obviously before I do that, I've got a bit of repair to do there, and a lot of repair to do over here. So I'll best make a start cutting more crap out. Right, I've butchered the bumper off because the existing bolts, I genuinely couldn't get them out, so I've had to rive that off. It's in a bit of a time lapse, channeling me in the Hulk. So what I've now done is I've took some measurements off the new dome iron that's going to go on the front, and I've took some datums to the front from the centre of this hole. So I've written there 345 millimetres front from centre of hole. So I've got a measurement to go to the front. I've then measured the dome iron on this side and same the other side, so that I know where I'm going to put my cut line for here down to this channel, and then this part here, which is going to be replaced. So this is still good thick steel, not worried about that. Unfortunately, this part here is supposed to be kept. So just for my own hell of it, I'll leave that in for now. I'll cut this, remove that. There's next to nothing the other side to take out. I'll show you in a second. Then once I'm happy with the positioning of the domain, once I know where I'm going with it, I'll remove this part here, and I'll make an infill plate for it. But the bonus of that is that's really thick and good steel. That'll be new steel and quite thick. And that being a welder, I'll just dress that up and weld it to that. So it'll take no time at all to weld that up. And that'll be all good. I'll show you on the other side. This is the worst one. Yeah. So that's the only bit I could draw a bit of a line on, believe it or not. And how I know it goes to there, for those lines to join up, is I measured on here the edge of the domain for this side, and then the edge of the domain for that side, by moving it around, putting the lines in, then measured that, took that datum for here, so I know that that's right. So yeah, I know I'm going to have to patch this as well, and patch down this side, but at least I've got something to weld to. Not a lot, but something. And it's basically going to be this channel underneath. It's going to be the bit that I can weld to. So, well, I'll make a start now. I'm only going to do a little bit today because time's getting on. So I'll do a little bit of time lapse for me chopping this off, and then I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.